Good evening, everyone. I'm Sukian Wilujeng and I will present about environmental observation and potency of lindur fruit as alternative food substance. This is the picture of lindur fruit or Bruguiera Gymnorrhiza. Environmental observation and potency of lindur fruit as alternative food substance. There are abstract, introduction, literature review, methods, result and discussion, and the last is conclusion. Abstract. The purpose of this paper is to know the content of heavy metal lead in water, sediment, and lindur at Ecotourism Mangrove Wonorejo, Surabaya. The research methodology of this paper using descriptive quantitative method and we use water, sediment, and lindur as the sample that taken at station 1, 2, and 3 with 3 applications. Physical parameters including temperature, pH, and salinity were tested directly in the field, while the heavy metal content of lead was tested using AAS method. Findings of the research showed that water, sediments, and lindur in Ecotourism Mangrove Wonorejo has been contaminated by heavy metal lead. Originality of this research explained that the average content of heavy metal lead in water at station 1 0.92 mg per liter, station 2 0.86 mg per liter, and station 3 1.08 mg per liter. Heavy metal concentration of lead in water has exceeded the limit of the quality standard of water according to decision of Environment Minister number 51 of 24, that is 0.05 mg per liter. The content of heavy metal lead in sediments at station 1 is 2.69 mg per kilogram, station 2 2.92 mg per kilogram, and at station 3 2.98 mg per kilogram. Heavy metal lead is still below the limit, according to the Government Regulation of Indonesia number 85 of 1999 is 5 mg per kilogram. The average content of heavy metal lead on lindur are at station 1 0.13 mg per kilogram, with epiderm layer 0.10 mg per kilogram, mesoderm 0.04 mg per kilogram, and endoderm 0.26 mg per kilogram. Station 2 0.15 mg per kilogram with epiderm 0.13 mg per kilogram, mesoderm 0.05 mg per kilogram, and endoderm 0.27 mg per kilogram. Station 3 0.16 mg per kilogram with epiderm layer 0.14 mg per kilogram, mesoderm 0.06 mg per kilogram, and endoderm 0.29 mg per kilogram, which has not exceeded the limit set by Directorate General of Food and Drug Administration Decree number 03725 PSK 7 1989 of 2 mg per kilogram. Introduction. The pace of development in all sectors under current conditions has led to an increase in urbanization rates. The logical consequence of all this is the increase in urban activity in various areas, including housing, industries, trade, and other sectors. One of the consequences of this development is the depleting of agricultural land used as a food source, and increasing demand for food continues to increase as the population grows. Food is a fundamental human need, and the fulfillment of food needs should be relatively equitable and based on the independence, and not contrary to the belief of society and mandated by Law Number 7 of 1996 on food. In 2014, Mangrove Forest Management Hall 1 Bali provided advice on alternative food ingredients, one of which is lindur. Fruit lindur is one of the mangrove fruit plants commonly known as mangrove leaves. Fruit lindur used as a rice substitute. The habitat of the Lindur plant itself is the current problem, where the Lindur plant is one type of mangrove that live in coastal water with low salinity and dryness, and the soil has proper aeration. Literature review. Several regional names from Bruguiera Gymnorrhiza, namely Tahub Tangle from Aceh, Waxrat Tinjang from Jakarta, Putu Tumu from Riau, Lindur Rongret from Bali, Bangko from NTT, Salah Salah Totongkek from NTB, Tancang from West Java, Tancang Tumu from Central Java, Tancang Putut from East Java, Lindur from Madura, Toke Toke Salah Salah Tancang Toke from South Sulawesi, and Big Mouth from East Kalimantan. Lindur is the dominant species in high mangrove forest and is characteristic of late coastal forest development as well as early stage of transformation into mainland vegetation types. Lindur plant capable of helping to stabilize the soil, to protect the beach and the habitat of various faunas. Wood can be used as firewood and for the production of charcoal. Papagon used as a tannery material and a good fish net perspective because it contains an average tannin content of 28.5 up to 32.2%. Also, the residents of Solomon use papagon to heal burns. In small island, Indonesia is used to treat diarrhea and fever, while in Cambodia it used as anti-malaria. Residents in remote islands are using their young leaf as vegetables or vegetables. The inside of the Hypocotylinder can eat mixed with sugar. The Eastern Indonesian population use lindur as a food source during the famine season. The second method. First, heavy metal lead test on the water. Water up to 10 ml inserted into a cup of glass, then evaporate to dryness using an evaporator tool. The residue from is transferred to the turbidity of the porcelain so that it becomes ash. Then add 25 ml of hydrochloric acid, 100 ml of nitric acid, and 100 ml of aqua dash. Then, in a stirred and filtered clear filtrate, add 217 of adsorbs to the AAS tool. Heavy metal leads tested on sediment. The sediment were weighed as much as 10 grams and fed into a cup, then heated to dryness. The resulting residue transferred to the bronze plate to burn to the ash. Then added 25 ml of hydrochloric acid, 100 ml of nitric acid, and 100 ml of aqua, stirred in such a way that the ash dissolves. Filters clears filtrate and insert 217 nanometer into the AAS absorbance tool. Third, testing of heavy metal lead on lindur fruit. The lindur sample was washed away with water. The sample then is taken from the epidermis layer, the mesoderm layer, and the endoderm layer every 10 grams. Then the layer burned to dry. The resulting residue transferred to the porcelain plate to burn to the ash. Then added 25 ml of hydrochloric acid, 100 ml of nitric acid, and 100 ml of aqua dash. Then stirred to dissolve the ash. Filtered, and insert to the 217 nanometer AAS absorbs tool. Here is the result. Water basic parameters observed in this study include temperature, pH, and salinity. The result of the measurement of the parameters of aquatic basic shown in Figure 1. Figure 1. The average temperature condition shown in Figure 1 is 29.59 OC, 29.22 OC, 29.12 OC. The higher the intensity of sunlight on the body of water. The higher the temperature of the river water, dense vegetation lowers the temperature of the air around. Heat is still within the limits of the water quality standard, according to decision number 51 of the Minister for the Environment of 24, where the standard water temperature is 28 to 32 degrees Celsius, the mean pH values were 6.70, 6.60, and 6.62. Rain will affect the pH of the aquatic environment to the acid. The pH of the water is more acidic to the intent due to the addition of organic materials which release the carbon dioxide when it decomposes. If rainwater falls on the ground, then it emits carbon dioxide in the soil cavity. Then the water is gained more acidic, and then the acid salts are formed. It will last a long time if there is a lot of carbon dioxide. If there is no more carbon dioxide, then the acid salt will decompose into calcium carbonate. Figure 2. The average temperature shown in Figure 2 is 29.78 OC, 29.78 OC, and 28.1966 OC. Average pH values of 6.67, 6.58, and 6.66. Rainfall affects the pH value of sediments. In addition to rainwater, soil pH also affects the residual metabolism of microorganisms present in sediments. During the growth of microorganisms, the pH of the deposit often changes, whereas when protein and amino acid metabolism is released, ammonium ions cause the pH to be alkaline. The average salinity is 1.67%, salinity is 1.69%, and salinity is 1.73%. The salinity of the soil, which is lower than the salinity of the waters, can be caused by mangroves, a freshwater plant that can alter the salt content found in the soil by negotiating metabolic process requiring fresh water. Figure 3. The mean values of the heavy metal concentration of lead of water shown in Figure 3 are 0.92 mg per liter, 0.86 mg per liter, and 1.8 mg per liter. Although the level of heavy metals in water are relatively small, they are readily absorbed and biologically accumulated by plants or aquatic animals and will be involved in food tissue systems. Low level of heavy metal in water due to the dilution process in water. Then the heavy metal is absorbed by suspense practices going to the bottom of the water, which is cause heavy metal content in low water. The concentration of heavy metal lead in monoregion mangrove ecotourism exceeded the water quality standard threshold according to decision of Environment Minister number 51 of 2004 is 0.005 mg per liter. Figure 4. Figure 4 shows that the heavy metal content of lead in sediments was 2.69 mg per kilogram, 2.92 mg per kilogram, and 2.98 mg per kilogram. Heavy metal levels in sediments are higher than in water, indicating the presence of heavy metal accumulation in sediments, possibly because heavy metal in water undergo dilution process with the effect of current patterns. The heavy metal content of lead sediments is still below the threshold due to government regulation with Republic of Indonesia number 85 of 1999, which is equal to 5 mg per kilogram. Figure 5. Shown in Figure 5 above, the average weight of lead on Lindur at Station 1 was 0.13 mg per kilogram, Station 2 was 0.15 mg per kilogram, and Station 3 was 0.16 mg per kilogram, the highest content of lead heavy metal found in Station 3. It is because the sediment and water station 3 also have a higher content of heavy metal lead, so that Lindur can absorb more lead metal. The heavy metal content of lead most accumulated in Lindur mangrove plant is due to the ability to transmit heavy metals higher than the fruit of other types of mangrove. Discussion: Value of heavy metal lead in Lindur at station 1 epidermal layer 0.30 mg per kilogram, mesodermal layer 0.15 mg per kilogram, and endodermal layer 0.16 mg per kilogram. The mean lead heavy metal content in the epidermal layer is 0.10 mg per kilogram. The mesodermal layer is 0.04 mg per kilogram and the endodermal layer is 0.26 mg per kilogram. The epidermal layer is 0.13 mg per kilogram at station 2. The mesodermal layer is 0.05 mg per kilogram and the endodermal layer is 0.27 mg per kilogram. The epidermal layer is 0.14 mg per kilogram at station 3. The mesodermal layer is 0.06 mg per kilogram and the endodermal layer is 0.29 mg per kilogram. The three stations shows that the heaviest layer of heavy metal lead is found in the endodermic layer compared to the epidermal and mesodermal layers. It is suspected in the epidermal layer and the mesodermal layer has a thin layer and a large intercalcular space so that the heavy metal content of lead dissolved in water easily penetrates the layer. The high content of lead heavy metal also supported by the surrounding medium, such as temperature, pH, and salinity. Decreased salinity and acid pH increase the solubility potential of heavy metals. The higher the water temperature, the higher the solubility of heavy metals such as lead and vice versa. The high content of heavy metal in Lindur may also be due to the maturity of age of Lindur itself. The higher the heavy metal content of lead in Lindur and vice versa. However, Lindur has heavy metal content of lead that has not exceeded the threshold set by the Food and Drug Administration Directorate General by Decree Number 03725 BSK 7 1989 of 2 mg per kilogram, so that Lindur is still entirely safe for consumption. However, if Lindur consumed continuously, it will have a negative health impact as it contains lead heavy metal. Conclusion: Based on the result and discussions, some conclusion can draw from this research that the water and sediments found in ecotourism mangrove Wonorejo Surabaya have contaminated by heavy metal lead. Although Lindur contained in ecotourism mangrove Wonorejo Surabaya heavy metal content lead doesn't exceed the threshold decree number 03725 BSK 7 1989 on 2 mg per kilogram was established by the Directorate General for Food and Drug Administration.